Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balava Girivanadari Gopijana Balava Girivanadari Jasodanandana Brijanaranjana Sodanandana Brajajanaranjana Chamunatira Bunatari Chamunatira Bunatari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balava Girivanadari Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamunatira Bunatari Jamunatira Bunatari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Boom. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Priya Bhajikacharya Siddha Shishman. His Divine Grace to Bhai Children Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Jiga Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananda Kodir Vashtabinda Ki. Nam Char Shlahidas Thakur Ki. Prem Shri Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadada Shri Vastadi Go Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Say Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki. Vrindavan Dham Ki. Mathura Dham Ki. Dwarka Dham Ki. Navadi Dham Ki. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki. Jamuna Maya Ki. Ganga Maya Ki. Tulsi Maharani Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Sambheda Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Sri Siddhara Giridhari Ki. Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jaga Ki. Go Premanande. All glories to the Summa devotees. All glories to the Summa devotees. All glories to the Summa devotees. All glories to the Divine Lotus Seat of Sri Guru and Gauranga. So today we're going to do, because it's several holidays, we're going to talk about Nirjala Ekadasi a little bit, and we're going to talk about it is appearance or disappearance of Baladeva Vidyabhusana. It is the disappearance day. They say that the disappearance day is more auspicious than the appearance because they manifest all of their pastimes, but both of them are auspicious days. So that's what we're going to do today. It is also Father's Day today, so those of you, unless your father is going to scream and yell and throw things at you, which I doubt is the case, give your father a call, say thank you. Because after all, you can never... Actually, it says you can never repay the debt of someone who teaches you even one letter, Chanakya Pandit says. Even one letter, you can never repay them. How can we repay our mothers and fathers? What is the only way actually you can repay them? By becoming Krishna conscious. You become a devotee, you deliver them, you deliver generations backwards and forwards, everyone benefits. What is the classic example of a son delivering his father? Prahlad and his father Hiranyakasipu. And Prabhupada points out, I was listening to a tape the other day, he said, where do you have an experience? The father is about to be killed, and the son is standing there with a garland, ready to garland the killer. You know, Lord Nrsingadev. But it all worked out okay. Okay, so Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Samanita Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paskicha Desatarani Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I'm assuming whoever is giving the talk is going to say something about Father's Day, so I'm not going to, that's why I didn't dwell on that one. So Nirjala Ekadasi, anyone know what Nirjal means? It means without even water. It says in the Padma Purana that the greatest suffering is thirst. Yeah, that's what it says. So Nirjala Ekadasi. So why do we do this? Are we gluttons for pain? Are we, what is it, we like to experience as Jesus suffered on the cross, let us suffer the mortifications of the flesh and somehow or other feel the full weight of our sinful guiltiness? our creatureliness, our fallen nature. Why do we observe Nirjala Ekadasi? Well, here's a little history. Little history is that Bhima of the Pandavas, sometimes it's called Pandava Bhima Ekadasi also, because Bhima has another name which is Brikodar. Which anyone know what that means other than Dravida? It means, yes, it means he has a wolf belly. That's the actual but he eats. He's voracious. Prabhupada says he has a voracious appetite, but what else does he do? Yeah, Prabhupada says Hercules, like Hercules, great task. Prabhupada says if you eat like a horse, then you have to be able to work like a horse. If you work like a bird, then eat like a bird. Otherwise, you won't be able to digest it. You'll just get sick. So he performed amazing activities, but with his wolf belly, voracious appetite, it was very difficult for him to perform Ekadasi. So Vedavyas, he asked Vedavyas what to do. Vedavyas, the original Vedavyas, told him that you just observe on this day strict Ekadasi, don't even drink any water, and that'll cover it. And it's also it's considered kind of a reset if you've broken some Ekadasi or you did some vow, some vrata you didn't follow quite properly. It's sort of a Ekadasi, Nirjala Ekadasi is like a cosmic annual reset button. Now, if you're not able to follow Nirjala Ekadasi, do not feel badly. We didn't even know about. Prabhupada taught us when this is 1969, I was coming to the temple. 1970, I'd moved in. But the Ekadasi, Prabhupada said, means fast and then feast. And we would fast till noon, and then we would have a knockout, no grain feast. So that was Prabhupada's program. With carrot halva, had to be carrot halva, made nicely, and Goranga potatoes with tons. Goranga potatoes as simply a delivery system for sour cream. So there was, different ways we had. So don't feel badly if you just don't take any grains today, and if it's too much, because sometimes you're this and that, you're young and you're active. Yes. I don't think so. If you take a few sips, personally I wouldn't do it. I would fold my hands and offer respects. But if you take, I'll tell you the truth. When I was in Los Angeles, there was Charnamrita made properly. Prabhupada liked it with a lot of yogurt and a lot of sugar. It was very tasty. So there would be a big bowl of Charnamrita. And on Ekadasi, because we were fasting in the morning, it'd be gone. Devotees would come with a cup and just take a cup. So it didn't last long. We've come a long way. But the point is, Prabhupada said there was a program. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, there was some program outside the temple. You can go to his house there in Mayapur, and it was evidently an annual or monthly program. And on this particular day, it was Ekadasi, and they weren't going. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur noticed, said, "Why aren't you going?" They said, "Well, it's Ekadasi, we're fasting, everyone's, Prabhupada said, "Take your meals and go immediately. If you need your meals for strength. So don't. Prabhupada said, don't fall flat. So don't just fall. If it's Nirjala Ekadasi, I can't do books. I can't do. Better you took some fruit or some water and went out rather than. But if you can observe it, it's very good. So some of the things about, other than the history we've talked about, it's said that austerity is the wealth of the Brahmins. Now, why is austerity a wealth? What can you usually do with wealth? Yeah, you spend it, but you don't just throw it away. You purchase something, isn't it? Generally speaking, you purchase something. So, okay, austerity is the wealth of the Brahmins. So what are the Brahmins purchasing? Cruise in the Caribbean? Several things. Purification. We're going to talk about purification in a minute. But, and of course, ultimately Krishna prema. But it actually, Krishna becomes attracted, but it also purchases freedom. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Everyone wants to become free. Prabhupada says in that great, one of the first lines I read in the Bhagavatam, coming to the temple, the living entity wants to feel the unfettered freedom of the soul. Ultimately, everyone's in their own way, whether it's by hang gliding or having a fast motorcycle or whatever it is, they all want to feel that freedom from this mortal coil, and the mind, and jeez, why do they want a vacation? Why does they say, thank God it's Friday? Because this world is just a big burden. And to feel that freedom, everyone wants to feel that freedom. So that freedom is purchased. That's the wealth of the Brahmins, because they become free from the modes of nature. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But you can purchase something with it. You can purchase freedom. You can also purchase clarity of thought. One who's austere, have you ever tried to cut eggplant with a dull knife? How does that go? If you have a nice sharp knife, it goes right through. So austerity sharpens the mind. The mind is, what is it, ekeha kurunandana? One's fixed intelligence. Vyavasayatmaka buddhi here. And otherwise the mind is all over the place. It's, thinking about, just think of it. You chant japa, try to control the mind. All of a sudden, it's, back when you took the vacation in Yellowstone with your family and you were 8 years old. How did I get here? Zing, 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 zing. Off you go like that. What is it? So, how does a muscle become strong? You have to exercise it, isn't it? And it builds up. Actually, it rips and then it heals, rips and heals, and it gets strong. So austerity, if we don't practice austerity, that ability to fix the mind, no, we're not going to think about that. No, we're not going to, my dear tongue, we're not going to do that today. No. Otherwise, to become simply a slave of your senses. I always remember when my office used to be my bhajan kutir, my house and all, my apartment or whatever. It used to be, anyway, I looked over there. There was a backyard in the house next to me, and there was a dog. And the dog got free one day. Someone left the gate open, and the dog went out. And I watched him, and he saw a cat, so he ran this way. Then he saw a truck, so he ran this way. Then he saw someone on a bicycle, he ran. And he was just zing, 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 just stimulus, response, stimulus, response, stimulus, response. Just reacting to whatever phenomena fell in front of him. And most people live like that. One of the biggest things in the supermarket, what do they call it? Impulse buying. I'll tell you another thing. When people drive on the freeway, there's a lot of restaurants, and there was a pancake house, International House of Pancakes. Not International House of Prasadam. That's unfortunate. But, do you know why? Well, you know what color they painted their roofs? Blue. You know why they painted them blue? People are driving down the freeway, and they're thinking, I don't want to eat at a greasy spoon junk place. Where's a place that's efficient and clean? Boom. And that color blue has an effect. Colors have very powerful effect. They painted the LA County Jail, all the different rooms as they process somebody, in different colors. Believe it or not, the first room where the guys are completely agitated and they've just been pulled off the street and they're mad as hell, they painted it saffron. You know why? Calms the senses. The room where they interrogate him, they paint it yellow. Yellow with a hint of orange, because then people kind of open up. I mean, people are just played like a violin. So, blue roof, clean, and it'll be fast and efficient, and they pull off, So how do we get off on that? So people are completely controlled by the senses. But if one can learn, wait a minute, I'm in charge here. So austerity is the exercise that develops the muscle that we can have clarity of thought, that we're in charge and we fix the mind. So it purchases freedom from the modes of nature, it purchases clarity of thought, and as you said, it ultimately purchases Krishna prema. Krishna's not cheap. So, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, and this is from the 15th chapter, the beginning of the 15th chapter of the Gita, it is said that there's an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upwards and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. The branches of this tree extend downward and upwards, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. That's what you ever seen a banyan tree? You know how, you ever see how the leaves are going this and that? And it's said that there was a banyan tree in India that Alexander the Great put his whole army under. Because and it becomes like a forest. You can get lost in a banyan forest. So this material nature is compared to a banyan forest because it's inverted. Where do you find an inverted tree? Huh? Who said that? It's a reflection. So it's a reflection of the spiritual world. So it's got its roots up and its leaves down, but will become completely entangled. So what is Krishna's advice? Well, there it is. You're in the middle of it, so eat, drink, and be merry, or tomorrow you will die. You know? God made this world for us to enjoy, so go for it. What does Krishna say? Krishna says, so I read that verse. The tree has its roots going down, and these are, that I didn't read. I'll read the verse again, the second verse of the 15th chapter. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. So we're completely entangled in this thing with very deep roots. But the next verse, Krishna says, and I'm excerpting, with determination one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Must cut down this strongly rooted tree by the weapon of detachment. So you sharpen that weapon of detachment by austerity. We also want to read about Baladeva Vidyabhusana, so I better get going. But I wanted to say a little more, because the archetype materialist who we already mentioned, his name was, other than Dravid and Vijay and Balaram, what was his name? Who said it? Somebody said it over there. Prahlad Maharaj, his father, was Hiranyakasipu. Anyone know what Hiranyakasipu means? Hiranyakasipu? Yes, other than you. Anybody know?
Irania means gold.
Okay.
And Kashipu means soft cushion.
Yes, thank you very much, Prabhu. The unembodied voice from heaven. So the utsaha is enthusiastic. It's a good quality. So to become comfortable, that's the whole business. The whole society is how to become comfortable in this world. How to get a nice, whatever it is, nice soft bed, nice money, beautiful house, everything. That's their whole, get a car with luxury. Everything. That's the whole, how to make sure there's as little distress as possible. And yet you find the Brahmins, the Vaishnavas, the sadhus, they're looking for austerity because they don't want to become entangled. They want to keep a sharp mind. Let me do there's a sage, and I forget his name, but he was covered with hair. And he was given the benediction that he would live until every hair on his body fell off. And I think one hair fell every life of Brahma or whatever it was, every yuga or something like that. And he was just standing by the river meditating or sitting. I don't know whether he was standing or sitting. And someone said, so he had an incredibly long life. And they asked him, why don't you build some shelter? You know what his answer was? I'm just here for a little while. So frankly, this world is a flash in the pan. And the devotees think, I'm not getting entangled in this tree. I'm not getting bewildered. I'm not getting dull-brained. I want to keep my brain sharp. So, and Krishna says in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, therefore the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. So that weapon, you can't have a dull weapon, and it's sharpened by austerity. And then Krishna says, famous line, armed with yoga, stand and fight. So if you practice austerity, you get a backbone, you get a weapon, you get the ability to stand and fight against Maya, because it's not going to happen by osmosis. You got to stand and fight. You're not going to, oh, Jesus died for my sins and I can go on sinning. It's not going to happen like that. You're not going to find some God man who, and with electrical current all of a sudden, it doesn't happen like that. Otherwise, why do we need UCSD? Why line up at the university? Why don't they just, for orientation day, just line everybody up? I want to become a doctor. I want to become an engineer. No field of knowledge is transferred by electrical current. It's just so bogus. So, we're almost done with this. Is it really? Same one? Roma means hair, but I wasn't sure it's the same one. Anyway, we'll roll on. One who is not connected with the Supreme. Okay, here's the thing. We were talking about purchasing and austerity. And, of course, Krishna says that which, what is it? Happiness in the mode of goodness. What is the nature of happiness in the mode? I want to enjoy. I don't want to feel any pinprick of inconvenience. I want room service. I just want everything to just flow. If I could have a conveyor belt that went into my mouth and I could lie in bed and click the cable, that'd be perfect. So, but what does Krishna describe? Real happiness. What is that nature of that happiness in the mode of passion? Happiness is it's nectar in the beginning. Vacation. I'm just going to eat and sleep and but how does it end up? It's poison in the end. You get diabetes, you get fired from your job, you get fat, you get so many different things, and you just garbage in, garbage out. Your brain gets full of all kinds of agitation. But what is happiness in the mode of goodness? It's a little difficult. It's a little bitter in the beginning. But it's happiness, but it's nectar in the end. So what does it say? Slow and steady wins the race, or it doesn't matter how you start the race, it's how you end the race. So how do you end up? So Krishna describes it. It's a great, I'll read the verse, and then we'll move on. One who is not connected with the Supreme can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there's no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? That's the second chapter, verse 66. Now let's inverse it. When you're a kid, connect the dots. Hey, Tapas, connect the dots and you get a picture. Kids connect the dot and it winds up being a crocodile or an elephant or whatever it is, right? So let's go backwards. Do we agree that we want to become happy? Anyone here, closet masochist, really is a glutton for pain, as they say? No. Okay. So we all want happiness. How we define it, that's another thing. But there's a common denominator, a common platform. Even the little ant will move its, you put its finger there because it's looking for some sugar, Prabhupada, it's completely off the track, but it's blissful. Prabhupada was giving class in Detroit. There was a stand next to him. Prabhupada put his glasses in his cart all there. And someone had given Prabhupada a nice plate of sandesh. Prabhupada liked sandesh. So it was a nice plate of Bengali sandesh. And Prabhupada put it there. And Prabhupada looked over there and he noticed there was a few ants on it. So it had only been there about 10 minutes. And it was on top of a column. Prabhupada said, Krishna has told these ants, Krishna is in the heart of every living entity, even in the heart of the ant. Prabhupada said, Krishna has told this ant, there is sandesh on top of that pillar. Go and get it. So, everyone's in their own way, ultimately helped by Krishna. But people are looking for happiness. That's my point. Okay, so connect the dots. There's happiness. But Krishna says you can't be happy unless you're what? According to this verse. You have to be peaceful. Makes sense, right? You can have all the money in the world, but if your mind is agitated, you can be next to the most beautiful girl in the world, but if your mind's agitated, you can't be happy. So, okay, I want to become happy. Okay. Well, what's a precursor, a necessary condition? Well, my mind has to be peaceful. Okay, what's the next logical question? How does my mind become peaceful? So what does Krishna say here? Krishna says, you have to have a steady mind. Right? Steady mind means controlled senses. All right? How do you have a steady mind? Mind is all over the place. Best of friends, worst of enemies, blown by the wind, this and that. What does Krishna say? You have to have transcendental intelligence. It means you have to be fit. And how? What is that? Well, transcendental intelligence, what does that mean? It means fixed in the Supreme. So one who understands, wait a minute, there's Krishna, and there's my real home, and I'm not this body. That's transcendental intelligence. With transcendental intelligence, one can get about one's real business and have a steady mind. With the steady mind, one can then control the senses. When the senses are controlled, one becomes peaceful, and one becomes peaceful, then one becomes happy. So that begins with the ability to practice austerity. It tells the mind, no, you're not in charge, I'm in charge. It's a shocking experience. Okay, shocking for the mind, like a horse. A horse in a pasture, a wild horse, a Mustang, sitting there peacefully, no problem. You see, they're just, eating daisies or alfalfa or whatever they're doing in the meadow. What happens when you put a saddle on that wild Mustang? They literally go bucking bronco, So the mind is like that. I wasn't disturbed before I tried to chant japa and take to Krishna consciousness. No, because your mind was completely unbridled. It was like that dog, whatever it saw, stimulus response, off it went. And nobody really is peaceful in this world, I'll tell you right now. They're all, what is it? Everyone leads lives of quiet desperation. When you get into the core of their heart, they put on a nice show, but it doesn't last long. But this is the advantage of austerity, the benefit, the value of practicing austerity. You think, well, I'm going to invest some time, I'm going to control my senses, I'm going to get up in the morning. I heard Prabhupada said, I feel dead when I until I take my shower, I feel dead. Prabhupada said that, So the alarm goes, you got to get up. I'm going to chant some japa and go see the deities and chant with the devotees. Get up. If you're really sick, you'll throw up on the way to the shower or fall over. Okay, you're sick. Fine, we get sick. That's legitimate. But at least get up and try it. How many times you say, well, I'll just get up. Oh, man, I was up late last night. Of course, that 3 extra cups of Holiv at 9 o'clock at night might have something to do with it. But, hey, so I'll just get up. And then I'll go back and take a nap. I'll slip out. Swamiji won't notice. He's on a GBC call. I'll slip out. But then you get up and you go to Mangalarti and you see the beautiful deities. You chant Hare Krishna. See the devotees dancing. You think, well, I'll chant a little japa, then I'll take rest. You chant a little japa. Well, it's almost time for greet the deities. Well, I'll stay and greet the deities. And, Bhagavatam class. I might, sit through Bhagavatam class. Otherwise, I might sleep through breakfast. And the next thing you know, you made it. So the point is that one has to just be lean towards Krishna. And that leaning towards Krishna, part of that is practicing austerity. So that's a little something about the value, benefit of austerity. So now we're going to talk about Baladeva Vidyabhusana in the few minutes that are left. There's not much time left. Baladeva Vidyabhusana, we don't know when he took birth. And we don't know exactly when he passed away. It's pretty clear when he passed away because the king of Jaipur performed his disappearance ceremony. But he didn't say anything about his family lineage. He was extremely humble Vaishnava, and he just wouldn't tell anybody where he was born, where he came. It was all irrelevant, So, but here's a picture of Baladeva Vidyabhusana. It was around 1700, and he passed away 1793. So he was about 90 years old at the end of the thing. So how are we going to do this? I guess I'll say something about them all, then hand them all out. And these are his beloved deities, Radha Vijay Govinda, and they're at the Gokulananda Temple in Vrindavan of Lokanath So that's what the deities are, and they're about this big. They're beautiful deities. So there's that. He was a great pundit. Even at a young age, mastered poetry, Sanskrit, grammar, so many things. And he was initiated into the Madhva Sampradaya, Tattvavadi Sampradaya. And he became a Digvijaya. Digvijaya, they travel all over, conquering everyone, challenging to debates and conquering. So he had sort of a jnana swagger to him. He was a Digvijnana. And in the course of his travels to these different holy places and centers of learning, he went to Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, he met Radha Damodar Maharaj, who is a nice Vaishnava. He was born in Orissa, if I didn't say that. He was born coming in that Orient line. And he met Damodar Goswami, who was coming in the line of Gauridas Pandit, Vaishnava line, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu associate and all that, and who converted him to Vaishnavism. And so he took initiation from Damodar Goswami in Vrindavan. In Orissa, took initiation in Jagannath Puri. That's where he took initiation in Jagannath Puri. And then his spiritual master, Radha Damodar Maharaj, sent him to Vrindavan to learn the Bhagavatam from Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. He became a Siksha disciple, top, dearmost disciple of Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. And so we have here a picture of Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur and his deities, Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundar. Maybe I'll catch up with that. I guess we start passing these around. I'll get the rest in a minute. Let's see. So there's a line of the Sri Sampradaya. Sri Sampradaya is Lakshmi Devi, coming from Lakshmi Devi. And they're called the Ramanandis. And the Ramanandis wanted to take over the worship of Rupa Goswami's Govinda Dev deity. And we have a picture of Govinda, a couple of pictures of Govinda Dev, is in Jaipur. You can go and see him. He was originally installed by Krishna's great-grandson, Vajranabha. And then it was lost. Rupa Goswami in Vrindavan chanting japa saw that this cow would always stop at one place and all the milk would come out of his udder at that one place. So Rupa Goswami said, something is happening here. Got some of the local villagers and they dug and they discovered the Govinda Dev deity. That's how Govinda Dev was rediscovered. I mean, these deities have far out stories. So the Vaishnavas were worshipping Radha Govinda under the Maharaj Jai Singh. But the Ramanandis challenged that you don't have a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. Every Sampradaya, the impersonalists, the Jnanis, they've all got commentaries because Vedanta Sutra is considered the essence, the philosophical apex of the Vedic literature. It begins with a line, Janmadasa Yataha. It begins Atato Brahma Jigyasya. Now you have the human form of life. Therefore, it's time to ask about Brahman. Like you have, what is it with when you recycle what's biodegradable, not so human intelligence, again, sharp intelligence, is meant to sort what is eternal, what is temporary. What is eternal? And don't waste your time with the temporary. Spend your time with the eternal. So atato, now you have the human form of life. Atato Brahma Jigyasya. Ask questions about what is Brahman, what is eternal. Then the next sutra is Janmadasa Yataha. What is the absolute truth? Because you're looking for what's eternal. What's the absolute truth? The absolute truth is that which from everything emanates. The cause of all causes. Aham sarvasya prabhaho, Krishna says. What is the absolute truth? That which everything else is dependent on. Sankhya Yoga is, well, this is dependent on this. Okay, that's not the cause. Well, this is dependent on 1980. Well, this is dependent on this. This is dependent on this. So what is the cause of all causes? Just like they're doing with the, what is the cause of all causes? Just like they're doing with the, break it down into smaller parts. Now they're at, what are they, quarks? They've gone beyond quarks now. I don't know where they are now. Chris, you know what they are now? quirks is as small as they've gotten? Okay. They'll find something else. They're always, until they get to super soul. It's Nirjala, I can't drink. Anyway, so what is the cause? This is dependent on this. This is dependent on this. So Vedanta Sutra says, Jamadasa yataha. What is the absolute truth? The absolute truth is that from which everything emanates. So, but the Vaishnavas, Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we don't have a commentary. We did not have a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. What? So many great scholars in our line, did we miss it? They were afraid to touch. They weren't up to the challenge. Why did the Gaudiya, other than Dravida Prabhu, if nobody gets it, we'll call on you. Anyone know why the Gaudiya Vaishnavas did not have a commentary on Vedanta Sutra? And I've given you a hint by quoting Janmadasa Yataha. Tapas. Ah, very good. The Srimad Bhagavatam is the natural commentary. Srimad Bhagavatam begins, it's describing what is the absolute. Krishna is the absolute truth, the supreme absolute truth, the cause of all causes. So it's not vague. You know, we should find out what is the absolute truth. And the same line, it begins, Janmadasa Yataha. It's the same. In other words, Vyasadev's made it clear. Because anyway, we don't want to go on that path, but he wrote all the Vedic literatures, was not satisfied yet. Narada Muni appeared before him and says, because you have not glorified Krishna. You've not given the essence of the thing. So when a thing is clear, like that rascal Dr. Radhakrishna, the big scholar, who says it's not to Krishna, but the unborn within Krishna that we should surrender, when Krishna says, surrender unto me. Like Krishna needed his help. Krishna left it unclear and needed Dr. Radhakrishna to clear up what Krishna meant. Prabhupada makes the point that you're studying all the words that Krishna says so carefully, because what Krishna says is so profound. That's why you're studying Bhagavad Gita. And yet this one thing, when Krishna says, surrender unto me, somehow or other that's not clear and Krishna missed it. And you've got to clear it up. I mean, it's just so bogus. So the natural, we didn't have a commentary because the natural commentary is there, which is the 18 cantos of the Srimad, 12 cantos, what? 12 cantos, yes, sorry about that, 18,000 verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's the natural commentary in full truth. So you don't, when it's clear, you don't need to explain it any further. You just muddy the picture. Still, the challenge was there. So Maharaj Jai Singh, here's something completely off the track, but it's interesting. You know, Jiva Goswami met Akbar. Emperor Akbar. Met him twice. And on the Govinda Mandir, Rupa Goswami's Govinda Mandir, this what's called the Govinda Mandir Ashtakam. It's 8 verses glorifying Rupa Goswami and giving the history of the temple. One of those 8 verses, because Akbar, anyway, it's a long story, but it says Akbar it glorifies Akbar, says he's very kind, and says that in his kingdom, he's a Vaishnava, and in his kingdom, the Vaishnavas are living peacefully. That's Jiva Goswami on the Govinda Mandir. And he was so impressed, Akbar, Queen Elizabeth was just like nothing compared to Akbar. The kingdom went all the way from Afghanistan all the way through Burma. The man was dripping with jewels. I mean, the crown jewels are what's left. You know, a small portion of a portion of a portion of a portion of a portion. That's the history of Akbar's jewels. That's what you've got, a few of them, you know, that they, you know, found under the closet somewhere or chipped out of a deity's. That's the crown jewels of England. It's nothing. You could put Buckingham Palace in a corner of the Red Fort and not even notice it. You'd use it as a horse stable. So it's true. I'm not making it. Do a Google. Look at the history of the thing, and that's a whole other class. But the point I'm making is that Akbar was so impressed by Jiva Goswami that he donated the red sandstone, Bansi red, which was only used for royal buildings, Mughal royal buildings, and paid for a library to be built at the Radha Damodar temple to house the Goswami literature. I just found that out. It's true. So these great kings were, and Maharaj Jai Singh, there's so many stories about the power of Maharaj Jai Singh. But Maharaj Jai Singh, the king of Jaipur, got this challenge that, you can't let the Vaishnavas, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas worship Govinda Dev, because they're not a bona fide Sampradaya. They're not philosophically deep. They're just sentimentalists, and they don't have a commentary in the, So they were making this case. So Jai Singh sent a messenger to Vrindavan. Hey, help me out here. Come on, we need your help, because he understood Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Goswamis, and he wanted defense. So at that time, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur was very, very old. So he sent Baladeva Vidyabhusana, his jewel of a disciple, to give the answer. So he went there and he just answered profoundly. Completely smashed them. I haven't forgotten the story. Smashed them. But they said, you can say so many things, but where's it in writing? Where's your written commentary? People can talk so many things. So he said, I'll get right back to you. Give me a few days. Now, writing a commentary that will stand up in Sanskrit, it's a life's work of the deepest scholars. And here's Baladeva Vidyabhusana. He's in the hot seat. He said, whoa, hold on. I'll get right back to you. So they're thinking, yeah, right. A couple days you're going to write a commentary that's going to stand up. So he went and fasted. He fell flat and fasted in front of Govinda Dev, Rupa Goswami's Govinda in Jaipur. And the deity spoke to him. After 3 days, the garland came, fell around him and garlanded him, just like the Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Madan Mohan deity. And it's called Govinda Bhasya. It's called it's because Govinda spoke it. Govinda said, "Don't worry, you just write it down. I'll speak it. Of course, you have to understand that he was a great scholar." So he wrote it down, and within 3 days, he appeared with this the profound Sanskrit. Deep, it's coming from Krishna himself, Vedanta Sutra. It was so powerful that the Ramanandis became his disciples. That's how powerful it was. And the king of Jaipur was in ecstasy, and the deities. And when you go to Jaipur, you can do darshan around the deities. And in back, there's a huge picture, almost life-size, of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. And they really like ISKCON devotees, Gaudiya Vaishnavas. They become very happy, when they see nice Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So we have a close connection there. So what else was I going to say on this? Just for fun, he wrote over 24 books, according to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the Navadvip Mahatmya. In Chaitanya Leela, Baladeva Vidyabhusana was Gopinath Acharya, the brother-in-law of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And in Krishna Leela, he is Srimati Radharani's maidservant named Ratnavali. Prabhupada dedicates his commentary, his Bhagavad Gita, a commentary, to Baladeva Vidyabhusana. And I did a search on it because I was doing a little research last night, or yesterday, whatever. And Prabhupada quotes Baladeva Vidyabhusana throughout Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Bhagavad Gita 336 times. So Baladeva Vidyabhusana's teachings and commentary are woven throughout our Sampradaya, throughout our Prabhupada. So weaken in there because of the time factor, but the simple point is, well, I'll pass these out. Here's praying before Govinda Dev. Here's a pig. Govinda Dev is probably, about 5 feet tall? He's a big deity. So there he is. Here's a close-up of Govinda Dev. Those are all real jewels. He's in the city palace. Maharaj Jai Singh, it's a whole story which we don't have time to go into, but snatched him from Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb was attacking Vrindavan, and Jai Singh got in there. Radharani was in one bullock cart, the deity of Radharani, leaving Vrindavan to go to Jaipur for protection. Maharaj Jai Singh was so strong that Aurangzeb, the Mughal emperor, could not conquer him. So he snatched them, and they were safe. A lot of the Goswami deities were taken there. So when they got to the edge of Vrindavan, Vrindavan's like a lotus, you know. When he got to the edge of Vrindavan, the cart with Radharani would not move. They got elephants, they had the soldiers, they could not move. The cart with Krishna went, so they figured she wants to leave. So they hid Radharani. So you can go to the the new Govinda Mandir, and it's the original Radharani, and it's a Pratibha, what do they call it? The deity that's it's an exact replica. But the original Govinda Dev is in Jaipur. So here's his picture. Here he's in Maharaj Jai Singh. You can see, Jai Singh's palace, the city palace, and here's evening arti. The evening arti, it's hard to get a scooter in Jaipur at 6 o'clock because they're all taking people to the Govinda Dev Mandir. It's actually quite blissful. So there's that. And then here's another picture of him chanting and meditating on Radha Krishna and his samadhi. And as I said, his disappearance ceremony was arranged for and presided over by Maharaj Jai Singh, the Maharaj of Jaipur. So we can, in there, we're way over time, and meditate, as I've said in the past. These great personalities, by the grace of one's spiritual master. Thanks. Everybody saw him? Thanks. These, it is both simultaneously one and different. I guess we can go a little longer because there's no breakfast. Just another 3 or 4 minutes. Where was Sanjaya when during the battlefield of Kurukshetra? Was he on the battlefield? No. So, but how is it? He's narrating everything that was happening on the battlefield to the blind king Dhritarashtra. Dravida Prabhu. Yes, Prabhupada says by transcendental television. Within his heart, by the grace of Vyasadeva, he could see the whole thing. So although he was not directly experiencing it, by the grace of his spiritual master, he was witnessing everything. The point I'm making is that we have a relationship with all of these great souls. We can pray to them. We can take shelter of their writings. Their mercy is flowing. But it happens by the grace of one's spiritual master. How is an experience direct and yet through another medium? There is something going on right now in this room, that there are devotees in this room who are having a direct experience, although something is standing between them. Prabhupada says that Jiva Goswami, there's the seer, the seen, and there's the act of seeing. Now, if there's the seer, the seen, and the act of seeing, if you put something in the middle, it filters, it blocks, it distorts. Not always. What's an example of the seer, the seen, something in between that enhances, enriches the seeing process? And don't say. I mean, not anyone. Hey, my friends, I was looking at you and I said, don't say that. And everybody clammed up. Sorry about that. Anyone want to take a guess? Other than Dravida? Magnifying glass is okay. But glasses, we're all wearing glasses. I mean, not all, but many of us are wearing glasses. You can say the eye is here, the object is here, it's in between. But does it distort it? It enhances, it brings into focus. So we need to have a bona fide living spiritual master who brings the thing into focus. But it doesn't mean it separates us from the whole sampradaya of these great acharyas. It is simultaneously one and different. So we should pray on these days to these great acharyas and feel so protected that this is the line we come in. Okay, we can in there. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Hey, Bhakta Alex.